Today, I want to talk a little bit about home inspections in New York City. Now, just like with a lot of things, we do things very differently here in New York than we do in other places in the country. Sometimes New York likes to make things a little bit complicated. Sometimes they like to make it easier. Usually it's more complicated, but at any rate, it is a unique environment and unique marketplace, and home inspections are done very differently here and approached very differently here than they are in other markets. In other markets, when a buyer's offer is accepted, the buyer and the seller enter into a preliminary contract. Sometimes it's called a memo of sale. Sometimes it's called a binder. It has different names in different locations, but essentially this is a contract between the buyer and the seller, and one of the terms of the contract gives the buyer a contingency period. This is a protected period of time during which the buyer can do their home inspection, whatever due diligence they want to do, and during that time, the seller is not supposed to be able to sell it to anyone else. It's a protected period of time. Sometimes it's 7 days, 10 days, 12 days, whatever gets negotiated. But during that time, the buyer can do their home inspection without fear that the seller is going to sell the property to someone else. We don't have that in New York. In New York City, home inspections are done before the contract is signed. There is no protected period. There is no contingency period for inspections like there is in other markets. This can create an environment that is somewhat stressful, somewhat tense, to say the least. When a buyer's offer is accepted, it's on them to get their due diligence, including their home inspection, done as fast as humanly possible. Now, most sellers will honor the deal that they made so long as they perceive that the buyer is doing all the things that they're supposed to do, moving the deal along, getting their inspections done in a timely manner. But this is the real world. Someone could come in and offer more money. You never know. So the buyer really needs to move as fast as possible to get their inspection done, especially if the market's competitive, if there are multiple bids, and it can be a very stressful period of time. Now, as an aside, when I'm a buyer's agent, I try to mitigate some of this stress by anticipating that if we're going to have an accepted offer, we're going to need to get an inspector in there right away. So I'm on the phone before we even have an accepted offer, finding out which inspectors are available, when they might be available. So that way, if our offer is formally accepted, we can immediately schedule someone and show the seller that we're really ready to move this deal forward quickly. Now, going back to our comparison between New York City and other markets in the country, in other markets, because you have this protected period, this contingency period during which buyers can do their inspections without fear of having the deal taken away from them, it almost creates this environment where the inspection becomes a tool for a secondary negotiation. Buyers and sellers go into a contingency period usually anticipating that the buyer is going to ask for a credit, a repair, try to renegotiate the price. There's going to be a secondary negotiation of some kind because, let's face it, no home is perfect. In New York City, we don't really approach it that way. We don't have this protected period. Either the buyer or the seller can walk away from the deal at any time for any reason. The seller could sell it to someone else. The buyer can just walk away if they don't, like the result, if they don't like what they find in their inspection. So, we approach it a little bit different. The climate is just different. When I work with buyers, we spend a lot of time talking about the inspection and how we're going to approach it. And generally the message is this. We're looking for things that were not readily apparent when we made our deal. When the inspector's in there, we are looking for things that are health and safety related, or things that were not readily apparent that could cost you a lot of money down the road. Those are valid concerns and reasonable things to try to renegotiate. We're not going into an inspection with the intention of renegotiating. We're not going into the inspection to nickel and dime the seller. We're not going into the inspection to try to renegotiate this deal. Inspections are for health and safety and major unexpected financial concerns. Now, if something comes up during the inspection, it's oftentimes just a business decision. Is it a big enough deal to raise the issue with the seller and try to negotiate? Are there other offers in play? Are there other buyers hoping your deal falls apart? In that case, maybe you don't want to sweat some of the smaller stuff and you just want to focus on major issues that every buyer would have a problem with. On the flip side, if it's not competitive, if there are no competing offers, if there are no other buyers in play, say the property's been on the market for a while, maybe you can ask for the seller to address more items from the inspection. Maybe that would be more reasonable. Again, it's a business decision. It's a strategic decision. And we talk it through and figure out how we're going to approach it before the inspection even happens. That way, once we get our inspection results, we can decide how to proceed and do it quickly so that we don't lose the deal to somebody else. Another difference between inspections in New York City and elsewhere in the country is that New York City is predominantly a vertical market, meaning apartment buildings. We have lots of them. And inspections in large buildings are done very differently than they would be on a single family or multifamily house. In apartment buildings, the mechanical systems, elevator room, boiler, hot water heaters, gas meters, electric meters, these systems are usually found in a common area of the building, usually in the basement somewhere. And we try to get access to these for the inspection. We can't always. Some buildings don't allow it, but most seem to. We usually have to have the super let us in and show us around. All well and good, but if something is found that is concerning, say the inspector says that this boiler is at the end of its predictable lifespan, because this is a common element, you can't really ask the seller to do anything about that. You can't renegotiate the price, you can't ask for a credit, you certainly can't ask the seller to do repairs on something that they don't own. So it becomes more of a financial question. With that inspection, with that result, we look at the building's financials. Do they have enough money so when they need to replace the boiler, they're able to do that? Do they have strong reserves? Are they collecting enough monthly income, whether it's maintenance or common charges, from all the residents to cover any necessary repairs? If so, then great. If not, then the question is, where's that money going to come from? And then we have to start thinking about the financial health of the building and predicting upcoming costs to our prospective buyer. I hope that sheds some light on how we approach inspections in New York City. Obviously, there's a lot more to it than what we've talked about. It's a very nuanced process, and every building is different. Every situation is different. You really need a professional to help to guide you through this. But there's a little brief overview of how we do things here. And if you want to know more, you want to talk about it, you know where to reach me.